And we have some breaking news coming in right this minute. South Africa has now decided to recall its diplomats from Israel for further consultations on the situation in Gaza. Now, this decision coming amid a rise in civilian casualties from Israel's war with the Palestinian militant group Hamas. Let's quickly go across to our correspondent, Kalden Ongmu, who's getting us more details on this. Kalden, what more do we know at this point?
Thank you so much. What I can tell you today, that's the minister in the presidency, that's Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, today while giving a briefing on the outcomes of the cabinet, that she announced that South Africa and Chad, actually she said South Africa have announced that they will recall diplomats from Israel for consultation in response to the Israel-Hamas conflict. Now, you must remember South Africa is the second country after Chad in Africa that's doing that. And she also said that, South Africa has 3 diplomats in Israel to be recalled. And she did not mince her words while saying that Cabinet has also noted that the continuing discharging remarks of the Israeli ambassador to South Africa about those who are opposing the atrocities and the genocide of the Israel government. So Minister said that, and also she said that it is becoming very untenable. And she says this kind of genocide under the watch of international community, especially South Africa, and it cannot be tolerated at all. And she also went on to mention, saying that South Africa is also considering the current position of the Israeli ambassador to the country while they are recalling its diplomats from Tel Aviv for consultation. But you must remember, South Africa, for time and again, since the start of this war between Israel and Hamas, there has been several protests, several marches that have taken place. ANC, that's the governing party of South Africa, marching to the Israel embassy, calling for President Cyril Ramaphosa to say you must shut down this embassy. The opposition party, the Economic Freedom Fighters, also took a very strong stance on saying that they want the ambassador of Israel out of the South Africa. Besides that, there has been actually several protests that are still going on even today. There are other protests that have been planned for the coming days too.
Right. Kalden, the immediate question that arises is, what about the other African countries? Do we see them following suit as well? What more can you tell us on that front, given the stance that's now been taken by South Africa?
So definitely this war has divided the world. Like I said, South Africa, after Chad, that was announced, Chad also, we saw reports coming in today itself saying that they are recalling their diplomats from Tel Aviv. So South Africa has become the only second African country to do so. While some of the African countries does support are pro-Palestinians, you've seen other countries supporting Israel saying same thing as what the West are saying, that they have the right to defend themselves. But South Africa has clearly, from the get-go, always maintained their stance on where they stand. They've always said that South Africa is for Palestine. They are not going to change their words. They're not going to mince their words. In fact, the Minister of International Relations, Naledi Pandor, also is talking very sternly on this, saying this is not the kind of situation and this is not the way that innocent people in Gaza should die. South Africa taking a very, very strong stance on this. So South Africa and Chad, we've seen, are not the only nations to call the diplomats back from Israel since the Gaza conflict began.
Right, Kalden, this also coming in the backdrop of the Iranian foreign minister writing to the BRICS countries, in fact, for pressurizing Israel to stop the assault. So a lot has clearly been going on behind the scenes, and this latest development only adds a layer of what is expected to come ahead from the region at this point.
Sorry, can you repeat the question? I can't.
Kalden, I was just talking about how the Iranian foreign minister earlier had written to the BRICS countries as well in order to pressurize Israel to stop this assault. So there clearly has been a lot that's been going on behind the scenes. Just a quick backgrounder for our viewers, just to explain how things reached this point as far as South Africa's stance is concerned.
Definitely, most of these countries, since the start of this war, people have been engaging a lot. The countries have been engaging a lot. You mentioning that the Iranian foreign minister, has urged member states of BRICS to intervene in this Israel-Hamas conflict and demanded that, this is a dire situation in Gaza and it must be put on the bloc's agenda. BRICS countries should definitely get together and decide on what's going to happen. As of now, Russia has spoken about it very openly. South Africa has always maintained its stance what's happening. So basically, it's China. China hasn't openly spoken about this as of yet. So it is something that the BRICS countries, member states, that's why earlier I said that the DIRCO minister, Naledi Pandor, who is South Africa's international relations minister, emphasizing very sternly, saying that this is definitely something that the BRICS nations should come together and discuss.
Right, we're leaving it there for the moment. Calton, thanks very much for joining us with all of those updates. Of course, we will be tracking those developments very closely. When Hamas operatives attacked Israel, the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was prompt in his condemnation. Trudeau told the world it should, quote-unquote, stand united against acts of terror. And tonight, we are daring Justin Trudeau to practice what he preaches. Stand against terror, Mr. Trudeau, and arrest Gurpatwant Singh Pannu. Can you do that? Pick up the phone and give that arrest order? Pannu is a Khalistani terrorist. He has threatened Indians, also millions of others who fly India's flag carrier Air India every year, which, by the way, also includes thousands of Canadians. Pannu has threatened to blow up an Air India plane. You heard that right. In a video released over the weekend, Pannu said, and I'm quoting, "We are asking the Sikh people not to fly via Air India. After November 19, there will be a global blockade. Sikh people don't travel by Air India. After November 19, your life can be in danger." Now, this is not the first time Khalistani terrorists are targeting Air India. Let me just take you back to the year 1985. Air India flight 182 had taken off from Montreal. It was on its way to London, and from there it would go to Delhi, followed by Bombay. The plane never reached its destination. Khalistani terrorists planted a bomb on the flight. It exploded when the plane was mid-air, somewhere over the Atlantic. There were 329 people on board. 268 were Canadian citizens. All of them died. The bombing of the Air India Flight 182 is the worst terrorist attack in the history of Canada. Justin Trudeau's father, Pierre Trudeau, was Canada's Prime Minister back then. He was accused of not doing enough to prevent that tragedy. The mastermind of the bombing was a Khalistani terrorist, Talvinder Singh Parmar. One of the accused in this case was a man named Ripudaman Singh Malik. Canada acquitted him for lack of evidence. Malik was one of Pannu's closest aides. And Gurpatwant Singh Pannu is trying to repeat history. Does Justin Trudeau have what it takes to crack down on this? For once, can Trudeau let the vote bank politics be? Arrest Pannu, interrogate him, jail him? Trudeau has everything he needs to act. There is evidence, also a solid case. Pannu was born in Amritsar, India. He left the country to stir anti-India sentiments abroad, and today Pannu leads a group called Sikhs for Justice. There is nothing right or just about this group. It is backed by Pakistan and the ISI. India has banned Sikhs for Justice. It is now on the lookout for Pannu. In the year 2023 alone, Pannu has threatened Hindus in Canada. He has released videos threatening to target Indian missions in Canada. Pannu also issued a threat to the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And what has Trudeau done about this terror emanating from his backyard? In one word, nothing. Mr. Trudeau has indulged in selective condemnation of terror. He condemns all terrorism except terrorists who have found a safe haven in Canada, the likes of Panu. In the year 2020, India declared Panu a proclaimed terrorist. He currently faces over 20 criminal cases in India. A court in India issued non-bailable warrants against him. But this terrorist continues to roam about freely in Trudeau's Canada. He had, although, gone into hiding for a bit earlier this year after 2 Khalistani terrorists were killed in Canada within a short span of time. Clearly, Panu has resurfaced now. All eyes are on the 19th of November and Justin Trudeau. Will Trudeau do what he preaches? When he came down to India for the G20 summit, the Canadian Prime Minister said, quote unquote, "We are always there to prevent violence and push back against hatred." On the 10th of October, Trudeau tweeted, "Glorification of violence is never acceptable in Canada by any group or in any situation." Let me just read that again. Glorification of violence is never acceptable in Canada by any group or in any situation. This is Trudeau's chance to actually walk the talk. Prove to us and the world that he does not speak with a double tongue, that he is more than just hot air. This is Trudeau's chance to not repeat mistakes made during his father's term. Like I was telling you, back in 1984, Canadian authorities were criticized for not doing enough to prevent the attack on the Air India plane. In the year 2006, a public inquiry set up by a Canadian Supreme Court judge concluded that a cascading series of errors led to the largest mass murder in Canadian history. Canada was warned months before the bombing. Weeks before the attack, Canada's secret services followed Khalistani terrorists to some woods on Vancouver Islands. He heard a loud explosion. Canada did nothing, and 329 people lost their lives. Justin Trudeau's inaction risks repeating history. So, Mr. Trudeau, what is your plan of action? Friendly democracies do not protect terrorists. Friendly democracies do not endanger the lives of innocent people. The world is watching. But first, let's go straight to news that's breaking this minute. Visuals coming in of an explosion at a residential area in Gaza City. These are the latest visuals that we are getting at this point. Have a look. The Palestinian Health Ministry says 3 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli forces in the West Bank. Gaza has been cut off from the world again. This is the 3rd time since the war started that communication lines have been cut, and we are being told that internet lines are gradually being restored. Hamas spokesperson Osama Hamdan has given a press conference in Beirut. He claimed the Israeli army is suffering military failures on the field. Hamdan also accused Israel of destroying Gaza's medical sector with the aim of displacing Palestinians from the strip of land. In fact, a spokesman for the Gaza Health Ministry has said that Israel is, quote-unquote, preparing something bad for the Al-Shifa medical complex. 1 month of the war and the tragedy continues to unfold. Nearly 10,000 people have died so far in Gaza. The Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza saying over 4,100 children have died in the war so far. Over 2,600 women have lost their lives. 152 people have died in the West Bank, 1,400 in Hamas's attacks on Israel. The United Nations has said that 88 UN RWA staff have died in Gaza. The UN saying this is the highest number of UN fatalities recorded in a single conflict. 1 month on, civilians continue to suffer. Children have been pushed to the front line. Have a look at this. Wounded children are being carried to a hospital in Gaza City. In the Gaza Strip, there is shortage of bread, shortage of water. This is Ankara. Hundreds are protesting against the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken's visit to Turkey. Protesters are accusing the United States, in fact, of complicity in the death of the Palestinian civilians in Gaza. Antony Blinken has wrapped up his West Asia tour, and before leaving Turkey, he said the U.S. is working very aggressively on getting more humanitarian assistance into Gaza.
We know the deep concern here for the terrible toll that Gaza is taking on Palestinians, on men, women, and children in Gaza, innocent civilians, a concern that we share and that we're working on every single day.
This is Paris. This French Spider-Man is ascending the Paris Tower to call for peace in Gaza.
Il y a WTW, là, Wind Tower, qui va s'installer bientôt.
And in Tel Aviv, the families of Israeli hostages are calling on the Netanyahu government to secure the release of their loved ones. Listen in.
He's a therapist. He's a very kind person. We hope that he's helping also the other hostages, maybe the children.
Romy is one of the best things in the world. She's my little sister. And we're a total of 5 siblings. I'm the first one and she's the third one. And she's like the glue that connects us together.
We're asking that the first priority of the government would be to bring those people back. Now, immediately. Every day goes by, you know, we're all been some trauma. And I lost my grandfather. My uncle lost his house and their house.
Israel has released this footage. It shows civilians walking towards southern Gaza. An Israeli press release read, and I'm quoting, following the IDF's repeated calls on the residents of Gaza City to evacuate from the area over the last day, and in accordance with set hours by the IDF has reopened an evacuation corridor to allow civilians in the northern Gaza Strip to move southward for their own safety.